Yeah, we said yesterday it's like kind of like a box. There are four corners of MacDonald that you can find yourself in.
Yeah.
One corner is the unspoken sermons.
If you love symbolism and analogy and just really thinking through those things, then Lilith and Phantastes are your kind of go-in, like starting point with MacDonald.
Yeah, especially if you like fantasy of any kind, that's more akin to like Lewis or Tolkien. Or
would you suggest an order in those two books?
I would do Lilith first.
Really?
Really? Would you suggest the other way?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah.
I read Lilith first.
Let's hear why. State your position. This is fun.
You go first.
Okay, so I wasn't
back to the box.
I found the illustration on the front of Phantastes so weird, just to be honest.
Good.
Yeah.
I read through all of his romances and was like, nothing about Phantastes really speaks to me just off of the cover. Don't judge a book by its cover, right? And I had come from a background of reading kind of the Christian fiction world when I was, 12, 13, 14. So the Scottish romances for me were an easy in to MacDonald, which is what I would recommend for people who love like romantic fiction or romances. There's mysteries in his Scottish novels. So if you're into reading more like just either historical fiction or romantic fiction, that would be your in to George MacDonald. So anyway, Thomas had me read Lilith. I think I read it very shortly after we met.
Yeah, because I was like, I didn't read it, but George MacDonald. So to me, it was just, yeah.
Which P.S.
But I knew nothing. I still know nothing. I
hasn't read many of the romances.
It's true. So. And the romances, like, I think people need to understand, right? So we don't know who's going to watch this. Like, okay, so unspoken sermons, deep theological, just deep work. And then the other corner, Phantastes and Love.
And unspoken sermons is, nonfiction. I just want to give more definition around what these are.
Yes.
Good note.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then on the other corner, this idea of romance is like the romance is like, it's not what you think of in the tradition, like
it's not a dime
novel. Yes, it's not a dime novel. It's not that. It's ordinary people in ordinary life who do great things in their station, whether it be they're poor and they till the fields, whether it be a servant girl, whether it be a curate, a minister. It's profound, deep, beautiful stuff.
Well, and you're looking more at, again, the classic literary definition of romance,
right? Which
is it's going to talk about beauty. It's going to talk about nature a lot. There's going to be a romance between characters, but it's not always like marriage romance. It's sometimes the main characters are children. There's always a mystery or some element of the supernatural, I feel like, because that's very romantic, part of the romantic era. So yeah.
And then the other corner, the final corner, is like at the back of the North Wind, Princess and Goblin, and like the fairy tale short stories.
Yeah, children's stories would be more appealing, then we would recommend to start there. But back to Lilith.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Lilith is what convinced me to go back and read Phantastes, because Lilith was so beautiful. And I still think, when I think back on those two, I still find Lilith more captivating. It's not that I don't love them both, but something about Lilith is just super, super captivating.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much beauty and truth. There is in Phantastes too, so it's really hard to do this like comparison, but Lilith just edges out for me a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Jenny. And in part, I think it just demonstrates the refinement of his skill and craft, right?
Yes.
It's like 30 years passed between the two. And based on conversations I had in our previous series, particularly with Ron Dart, he pointed out how much George worked at the novel Lilith. Like 5 years, very, very detailed, very meticulous in what he was constructing.
And in that sense, it's, it's definitely an easier in to George. Because I think George, we found a first edition at Powell's in Portland.
It was an unedited version of one of the Scottish novels.
It's hard to read.
I couldn't read it, just to be honest.
So it's like, he's tough to read. But anyway, I think Phantastes first because I think it's lighter. I think there's more of there's almost transcendent beauty in it. And I'm kind of doing this deep dive into trees right now in Phantastes and Tolkien, and it's actually quite mysterious and wonderful. But the Arthurian elements within Fantastes is really cool, but I think it's transcendent beauty. I think it's beautiful. Whereas on the other side, I think if you were to read Lilith first, it might be easier. It might be more akin to what one is used to, but I feel like, yeah, being someone who knows MacDonald, I say Fantastes and Lilith, but being somebody who doesn't know MacDonald, absolutely Lilith first, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And I'll chime in and cast a vote for the unspoken sermons as well, just because I would say our culture today is not particularly literary, right? So in a culture that is less literary, and particularly, to be honest, in the Christian subculture, even less so, the unspoken sermons, particularly like A Child in the Midst, Abba Father. And then for me as a parent, I will just chime in and say that Justice was so pivotal in reorienting my understanding of punishment and consequences that filtered through to my reaction to my children. Very, very meaningful and I would say very, very beneficial. My 2 cents.